Okay, today I'm going to demonstrate the purl stitch, which is the stitch I'm using for the second block of the Tunisian stitch Afghan sampler, or sampler Afghan I should say. To do this, it's very similar to the basic Afghan stitch, the one difference being that your yarn over thread goes in the front of your piece rather than behind. So once you have it in front, you go through the loop, yarn over, pull through the loop, yarn over, and with it in the front, pull through. And my stitches are a little loose because I had to rip out, because my first take on this, my washing machine alarms decided to go off and made a racket in the background, which I found extremely distracting, and I'm sure you would have as well. Okay, when I get to the color change portion, do the last one, yarning over. Whenever you drop to change colors, you always want to hang your thread in the back. Even though we were doing the purl stitch with it in the front, we want it in the back now. And I pick up my cream, and here I'm changing to the Afghan stitch because I've decided that for my border and my sashing I'm going to do that stitch throughout the project. I do my single stitch and yarn over, draw through two. This works the same way as it does in the basic Afghan stitch. In fact, all of the Tunisian stitch rows work the same way when it comes to reducing down to one stitch again. Yarn over, draw through two, and you work your way across. Now, one of the things that I touched on in the first video, which covered the basic stitch, was my guesstimate for how many rows I was going to need to do in order to make this block square. And what I did was I measured and you pick the middle of your block. So in the middle, I came up with 8 inches in width. In order to get 8 inches in length, I guessed that it was going to be 27 rows based on my calculation of 3 rows for every 4 stitches. Well, it turned out I was close, but it was actually 29 rows. So from here on in, for every block, I'm going to do 29 rows for my 36 stitch blocks. It's up to you. If you do, say, a 30 stitch block, do the number of rows that needs to get that first block square. But then after that, you need to do all the rest of your blocks the same number of rows. And the reason for that is if you're going to do sashing in between each one of these, you want them to match up as you add your columns of blocks to the project. This will make more sense when we start working on the separate column, but trust me, even if it isn't quite square, depending on the stitch, and there will be some that it won't be. It's looking like with this one, I'm right at 29 now. It looks like I'm still at 8 inches. When we do the knit stitch, some of those stitches are denser. They're the stitch up and down. I can't decide whether to use length or width when I describe this, but the stitch up and down, it isn't as tall. It's about as tall as it is wide. And it'll make more sense when we get to the knit stitch. I haven't yet decided what I'm going to do for the third block. You'll know when I get to it. And the reason is I want to try to keep building off the knit and the purl stitches. And I know there are several of the stitch designs in that booklet that incorporate these two. So, till the next time, thanks for watching. Bye.